Hey everyone, this is Ken from Adventure Machines. Starting out a series talking about some of the things in the Adventure Machines shop, and I guess I could call it Adventure Time. I'm going to try and do like some weekly updates on what I'm doing and some of the crazy projects that I get myself into, some of the ideas that I have, and go from there. So what I'm showing you here is a 1975 280Z. This is basically my current personal vehicle project. Some of the things that I'm working on getting done here is we got Hoke Performance. It's H-O-K-E. This is a custom mount to put a crank trigger on. We did a rapid prototype print of the tone wheel, and this is the tone wheel before making the final attachment. These spokes will eventually go away, so it aligns it and makes it so it's centered. So this is going to be a pretty nice setup. So the 40-year-old straight six will have crank triggered ECU, and so that's that piece. And the kit comes with this nice distributor plug that goes in here. And you might be wondering, what are these tubes? What's up with that? Well, a while ago there was a project that started back in 2008, somewhere thereabouts, where there was a group project to build, or a group buy, to build and buy these plates. And this is a custom intake manifold plate, and this is the plenum side, and the tubes go in between the two. This is all machined out, and it receives the tube on the other side. This is the head side of the flange, and the tubes slide into this, and then ultimately it'd be welded up. And one of the modifications that I had to do to it, if you can see down in there, there's several different size steps, because the fuel injectors that I'm going to run are from a late model BMW 550cc injectors. These things are readily available off of eBay, and these are true Bosch injectors, which are important. There's a lot of copies out there that don't have the same quality. But the end of this fitting, or the end of the injector itself, needed to have this port modified to accommodate it. So I created a special drill bit. It's over here in the pile and the mess, but this is the pile and mess of getting things done. So this is what this thing looks like. Mildly crude, but it has a step that fits down into the originally bored hole, another step that counterbores for it's like a heat shield or something like that on the injector, and then this sets the diameter of the upper portion where it actually seals. And how I ended up making that, back here in the hole, yeah, I have to clean. So this is how I ended up making it. I mounted the drill bit in my old lathe, put it in back gear so it turns super slow. I can turn it on and show you how slow this thing turns. And mounted a cutoff wheel and strapped my grinder to the tool post and turned it on and ground myself a drill bit. This is the section that I cut off of it. Actually turned out pretty good. So like I said, crude, but it works. So let's go back through here. So among other things that are going to go on this project is we're going to do coil on plug. These are the MSD coil on plug from a Ford 4.6 liter application. Ended up getting this set as an open box. They're brand new, fairly cheap. And then, of course, they'll mount along here. Still got to build a bracket, or possibly even weld something to the valve cover to mount those. Right. And then I decided what started this whole project was I actually had a leak from right here, which is apparently fairly common. And to get this cover off, you basically have to loosen the pan. And once I loosened the pan, I decided that I wanted to take the head off because I didn't know what the CC chamber size was, the chamber size in CCs, because I wanted to do that. And that was a GT35 copy. It's say it's an AR68 on the turbine side. It's an eBay turbo that's water cooled as well. It's a T4 flange on the exhaust manifold side, hence the adapter plate that I machined and then welded to this. I'm gonna come back and scarf this out and then lay another pass over the top of that. But back hiding right about there is a fairly large external wastegate. It's a 60 millimeter, and it's a 3-inch exhaust coming out of the turbo. Came out as straight as far as I could, and then started running down the tunnel. It's a fairly tight fit in here. The hole in the bottom of the intake, or the hole in the bottom of the exhaust manifold, was a couple different pieces of what is it? It's 2.5 inch or 2 inch. It's 2 inch weld steel, and then the downpipe for the wastegate is 2.25. And it runs back down underneath the car and merges in next to the side of the transmission. So, but in chasing through a bunch of stuff, this engine was supposedly rebuilt, and unfortunately, either when they assembled it or at some point in time, I don't know. Typically, when you have detonation, this doesn't happen, and this thing doesn't have that much compression. It only is running like 8.2 to 1, and it wouldn't have detonated really. So I think this happened when it went together. So this is a number 6 piston hole. So that did that. It scored the bore, and it smeared one of the big end rod bearings, which I don't exactly know why. And I'm not real impressed with the quality of these pistons. So basically what that means is that's coming out. So hiding over there on the other side of the KTM is the engine hoist that I just bought, and I've got a couple other things that I got to finish up on the exhaust before I can pull everything out. I'm going to put a flex joint in that external wastegate pipe, because as it stands right now, I got to kind of torture that pipe into place, and I don't want that to happen. So I got to fix that, and the motor's going to, engine and transmission are going to come out. The other piece is, you see this scatter of wire. The majority of this is going to get cut back. I removed the fusible links. Well, actually, it's right here, but I'm going to eliminate the fusible links. All of the brackets and things of that nature on the inner fender wells that were no longer used are going to get ground down, smoothed out, and I'm contemplating painting the interior of the engine well kind of like a tool gray, since the outside of the car is this bright silver. So yeah, but got a turbo valve cover, which at this point in time I don't believe I'm going to use. This is a Treadstone front mount intercooler, and in this application it's kind of cool because it has this hard turn. I don't know how efficient this is. It probably isn't all that efficient, but I'm not looking to create crazy amounts of power. So this allows me to bring the pipe back and come through the radiator the radiator flange. I'm going to shift the radiator slightly to the driver or the passenger side to allow me to come through right here. So this is going to get modified and cut out so that to accommodate both the out of the turbo, out of the intercooler back through here, and then also the intake air. I want to bring it back out front. I don't want the intake air behind the radiator and where everything's hot. So that's the general scope of things. There's a bunch of stuff going on. Next things that need to happen on the cylinder head is I'm going to port the intakes to match the flange. The flange was intentionally built to match the bottom of the port, but grow up to the top of the port, which is fairly standard, good technique. And then I'll blend that back into the port. I also drilled holes on the between the number 5 and back between the 5 and 6 and behind the 6 to bring cooling water back to the thermostat housing, which is a common problem with this engine. It's got boiling, overheating problems in the number 5 and 6 cylinders. But as soon as I pull the engine and transmission, I've also got to go through the transmission, put new synchros in it because they're a little grindy. But pull the engine out, go through the head, go through the block, and do everything again. But turbocharge it and put too much boost to it, and you don't do the right things to make sure that it doesn't break, it will break. And so my goal is, an easy 350 crank horsepower, reliable, maybe a little bit more. It should be fairly easy to do. So there's a first stage. Each one of these kind of sub-projects, I'll try and do a video of the process of installing this tone wheel and this intake manifold process. I can weld aluminum, but I'm not super good at it, so I'm probably going to farm that out, have somebody weld this all up. I'll do all the fabrication. I still need to make the intake manifold plenum and the throttle body assembly where it bolts on. And the throttle body that I'm going to run is from a 1995 Crown Vic. It's a 65 millimeter. It's a Ford throttle body. This is what it was running previously and normally aspirated, which is a 240SX. Most people are saying that this is enough for that engine, but I had this laying around, so I figured I'd use it. The other thing I'm contemplating doing is putting a power steering rack in it. So we'll see how that all plays out, if I actually do that. Yeah, bunch of intercooler tubing that I probably won't use. Most of it. The fairly massive turbo body. Decent quality considering the price. It was like $270 delivered. We'll see how long it lasts. The fuel rail from the old setup and the cam, which appears to be around. It's an A cam, but it's hand engraved with a 260, so I believe it's an aftermarket cam of someone's grind. I haven't measured the base circle, so I don't know exactly what the deal is there, but fairly decent shape. So anyway, there it is for now. Hopefully in about a week I'll have an update and a cleaner shop. All right, bye.